everyone, welcome back to Brownlow Books. Recently I read Two Roads by Joseph Bruchac. So, this is another middle grade. I've been on kind of a kick of middle grade, a little bit younger recently. So, Cal Black is a hobo in the Great Depression riding the rails with his father. His father is a vet from the war, the Great War, because we didn't think we were going to have any more of them. And, the Great Depression be the Great Depression. And so he thinks he's owed more by the government because he was promised all these things that they're now not delivering. So the first half of the book is traveling the rails with the two of them and the various people they meet and the trouble you can get into and just kind of how hard the world is at that point in time. And then the second half is when Cal's dad has decided to send Cal to a Indian residential school despite the fact that Cal doesn't even know that he is an Indian. Yeah. Imagine finding out that when you're 12. Wow. So, Pop's gonna go off to Washington to tell Hoover, hey, give us the fucking money you owe us, right? So, it is an Indigenous story, as I've just told you. I am gonna compare a little bit to the Crying Rocks from last week because obviously we have similar stories of young people not knowing they're Indigenous, finding it out, and finding out about themselves. So, the first thing I'm gonna point out, hey, look, Two Roads is actually written by an Indigenous author. Yep. Joseph Bruchac is Abenaki. I have it written out phonetically because I'm horrible and I want to get that right at least. Yeah, so he's Abenaki, as well as I believe it was Norwegian and English. So, he identifies as Abenaki. We're going with it. That's what it is. It's what it is. So, Cal's dad was in a residential school when he was younger. And so the taking Cal to a residential school, when I first read that, I was just like, why the fuck would anyone willingly send their children there? So his dad does tell him all the horrible things that happened, all the horrible things that could happen. It is a rough couple. Thank goodness he spreads it out, because reading all of that at once would get the fucking white people up in arms and be like, we didn't fucking do that. Yes, you fucking did. So, he tells him a lot of horrible things that could happen to him, and that happens to other kids, and just Jesus fucking Christ. And you know it's fucking true. You know it is, don't fucking deny it, okay? So, it's why would anyone send their children there? Obviously, he thinks Washington's going to be a lot more dangerous for him, so he wants him to be safe, he wants him to have an education. Fine. There is an author note about why someone would send their children to the same kind of place that they had trauma in. And so, while I was reading it, that was kind of a point for me. I was like, why would you send your children there when you know what happens there? But I read that little note and it was like, that makes total sense. I can't blame anyone for, you had limited options. It is what it is. So, yeah, the second half of him being at residential school, it's like a little found family with some of the other boys there, right? It doesn't show the hardness that can happen at those places directly to our protagonist Cal. So, that was kind of a nice thing. It's not quite so it's a middle grade book, So it's gonna downplay that a little bit, right? But yeah, it really points out that there can be a hereditary trauma. We know this, they tell us. Don't be an asshole and deny it. So, it was kind of nice to see all the different tribes and bands and whatnot at the school, kind of interacting together in all the different ways that, like, all the different tribes are kind of different, you know, like, it is in Oklahoma? I think it was in Oklahoma. So, like, there's a lot of different, like, plains tribes there. So it was, like, you know, different people hang out with different people, but, you know, you still know about each other's tribes, you know what they're into. Like, it was a nice way to show a lot of different tribal traditions, because obviously the kids sneak around and they're like, fuck you, I'm gonna fucking do my tribal shit, right? So there is that. I wanted to like it more than I did, though. I think it's a disconnect for me for it being so male focused, because we do have Cal and his dad. His mother's dead. There's no women in their life. There's no women really at the school other than, like, the librarian and the nurse is horrible. And, like, all the girls are kept separate in the other school, and they only see, like, they see one wife of one of Black's fellow veterans that he fought with. So they go and see her before they go to the school, and, like, she gives them work and food and whatever, right? You know, the way hobos do. And then at the end, there's a woman hobo who used to be, like, a doctor. And so she rides the rails to provide, like, medical care to other hobos. And I thought that was nice, but, like, the women in it are such small parts of it that it's just kind of like, are they even really there? So it is a very, very male-centric book. And so I think that kind of held me back a little bit from it, just because, you know, I'm a woman. That's who I'm going to identify with more easily, right? So I am giving it 4 stars. Like, it is well written. It is, you know, an easy to follow story, and it gives you lots of information, tells you what's going on. You know, very difficult time in America. But yeah, it just didn't quite connect to me. But I can see this being a great book for, like, young boys. Definitely, 100%. Give your children this book. So yeah, that's where I am with it. 4 stars. Good author. I might try to pick up some of his adult fiction at some point. Not gonna actively be like, gotta have it right now, but if I see it in the future, I'll be like, yeah, I'll get that. But yeah, that's where I am with this. Good read. Not difficult. Gives you some good Indigenous background. Don't forget to like and subscribe.